Chair. The Planning Officer previously deemed this proposal to be contrary to policies of the Kirklees Unitary Development Plan and the NPPF on 6 separate grounds. 15 written objections have been received. Highways are unhappy with the proposal, even after last-ditch modifications. Sightlines and turning space or access by large vehicles, fire engines for example, still compromised. Now that only one spare visitors space is proposed off-road to be shared between 6 apartments, it's highly likely to result in far more vehicles parked on the roadside, with consequent detriment to sightlines and access for neighbours. Refuse collection arrangements are still unclear, but neighbours should not have to look out onto big shared commercial bins at the top of the drive, nor have 6 extra bins on the pavement every week. And what happens to the up to 3 vehicles belonging to the tenants in number 8 that are currently parked on this driveway? The proposed building would cause significant harm to visual and residential amenity, officers' words. It is not similar to the already approved 5-bedroom house. It's bigger, with a dominating site, and is out of keeping with the surrounding development. It will contain more people, up to 12, generate far more traffic, up to 6 residence vehicles, plus visitors' deliveries. It is effectively a 3-storey building, not a 2-storey with rooms in the roof, and it is disingenuous to pretend otherwise. Mirfield Town Council comment that the application would see elderly residents downsizing and leasing 6 dwellings onto the housing market. MTC have not canvassed local opinion. The statement is unsubstantiated by empirical evidence. They have no knowledge of the price point at which the properties would be offered, nor even whether they will be for sale or for rent, as is the case with number 8. Nor do they have any knowledge or way of knowing from what type of property or from where potential residents will come. The applicant's supporting statement asserts that such accommodation is essential to provide adequate living conditions for the ageing population. There are many residents in their 60s, 70s and 80s in the immediate vicinity who are affected by this proposal and who completely disagree. It is not essential at all. Many older people prefer to stay in their own homes in a familiar environment rather than face the stress and upheaval of downsizing at their stage of life. And should the applicant subsequently wish to remove the age restriction for whatever reason, there's nothing to prevent them from doing so. I respectfully ask the committee to re-examine this aspect of the proposal with full rigour and a clear focus on planning matters, as it did when refusing the previous virtually identical application, and not be swayed by unsubstantiated and contentious assertions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Todd, please.
I believe the letter of support from Mirfield Town Council cites the need for more homes for life, but alarmingly this letter seems to be the only reason that objections are being ignored. It lacks any evidence of any consideration about the suitability of this location. Whilst we appreciate the need for more homes for life, Mirfield has other developments ongoing to meet this need. Darren Smith has begun phase 2 of his development of 108 apartments at St Paul's Lock in Mirfield, a brownfield site ideally located for local amenities. Committee members stated at the last meeting that the Kirklees site has its challenges and is not the best place. So given that other developments exist, why overlook the advice of planning and the Highways Agency and the 15 residents' objections? Why are you ignoring your own planning policy, the advice of your own experts who have repeatedly said that this application is not appropriate for this site? Major issues such as visitor parking, drainage, road safety, refuse collection, access for emergency vehicles, and many more have still not been addressed by the developer or this committee. In scale and height, the plans are out of context with the existing topography and would be over-dominant in the area. Planning concerns about overdevelopment and overcrowding are being disregarded. The applicant's planning statement is misleading by stating that the scale is comparable to a previously approved dwelling. This is incorrect. The height is 11% taller, the new footprint 20% greater, and overall volume and mass is 44% larger. This is not what I would call comparable. It is significantly bigger. Unrealistic assumptions are made about the lifestyle of the 60-plus demographic. This age group is very active. 30% nationally are still in employment. Others provide childcare for families. meaning they will not just be sat at home, they will have cars, there will be lots of traffic at peak times. We'd urge the committee to consider the 44% increase in mass, to listen to its own experts and planning policies, and consider that other developers are meeting this housing need locally in more suitable locations. If common sense does not prevail, will you be setting a precedent, and are you prepared for developers upscaling already approved plans and the development of other apartment blocks in other gardens, citing this case? Thank you.
Mr. Pickering, please.
I wanted to come here today and tell you why I wanted to build these Homes for Life development, and that's what it is. It's Homes for Life. It's very much it's my own personal experience as brought us to this. I wasn't going to speak today, but both Vivian Kendrick and Vivian Lees-Hamilton asked me to speak, and they've actively supported me putting this proposal through because of the need within the community. And these are must-stay Homes for Life development for over 60s. For me, I've been affected by my family. The most significant event for me was my grandfather, late at night, trying to change a light bulb. The fall, the bang to his head, the nosebleed, I was explained to at the hospital that it could have been life-threatening injuries. Fortunately, Mr. Jones, the neighbour, was outside having a cigarette one night. And if it wasn't for his actions, my granddad may, as the doctors told us at the time, if it wasn't for these actions, my granddad's life may have not been saved. Mum and I felt guilty because at the end of the day, it was only luck and due to the vigilance of Mr. Jones that my granddad was still there the next day. As counsellors, that story you will have heard many times before, similar stories like this. These homes would have prevented this. All homes will be fitted with a care phone. A toggle, if something had happened like that and they'd have fallen, they would squeeze the toggle and it would either phone one of the family members, a care provider, or even a resident within the same building. We put a lift into these homes, but the bathrooms weren't versatile enough. So we went and sought the advice of Kirklees Accessible Homes. They guided us through the process. They sent us away to get our bathrooms redesigned so that they were actually wet rooms, so that they were suitable for if someone got older and they would lose their mobility, it would be suitable for them. Lots of other details were made to make these homes more sustainable in later life, especially for people with mobility problems. That's when I was introduced to Viv Kendrick, who took us around Meadow Green Development, which is an independent living development.
Draw to a close, please, Mr. Pickering.
Yeah, what we are trying to say is that we have done our research. Many people within Kirklees Kirklees Council have not only helped us but has encouraged us to submit this planning application before you today. And we would ask the councillors, finally, just bringing it to a close.
Mr. Pickering, take your seat. Take your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. David Storley, please.
Thank you, Chair, members. As you recall, this was debated at the November meeting, and I welcome your clarification at the beginning of the item, Chair, that the focus today is on the issue that you defer the matter on, which would be access. We were asked to go away and seek an opportunity to improve the position of the access and sightlines. We commissioned highway consultants to do that, and that's why it's taken the time to get back to you, so it skipped the cycle. The plan before you shows an improved access and sightline. Now, you hear often about considering what's called material considerations, and the material considerations in respect of this access are previous approval on the site for a 5-bed dwelling over 3 floors. That access that was approved is actually worse than this access. The critical direction to the right here is 20.1 metres, and on the approved access was 15 metres. So we're presenting you with an actually improved situation. Now, in terms of traffic impacts, the balance you strike here is 6 one-bedroom apartments, and the occupancy of those, against a 5-bed dwelling, which is a family dwelling, who occupy mother and father and 4 children. Now, we all know now the difficulty people have in getting onto the housing ladder, and it's not inconceivable to have a situation where that house could be occupied by people who are actively working, and all car owners, 6 cars potentially, and leaving that site at peak time. At the time that dwelling was approved, Highways were supportive of the application, notwithstanding the reduced sightlines. We're offering improved sightlines now, so Highways' position shouldn't have changed in that respect. If anything, it should be supportive. So, in conclusion, Chair, what we presented to you following your concerns at the November meeting is an improvement to the highway situation, the access situation, and one that's actually better than that has been previously approved for the 5-bed dwelling on the site. That's an extant permission. Foundations are in, and that could be built. That's a material consideration. So there are 2 material considerations you take on board there. I would hope that you recognise that we have taken on board your comments and presented you with a scheme that is now fit for purpose in terms of highways and access. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Before I bring members in, Ryan, I think we have to make a comment on actually what has changed between the previous application with the previous access arrangements and the new access arrangements. Can you do that, please?
Through Chair, ranking the Highway Development Management. The location of the access has changed slightly. It has been relocated to the west. It has been widened 6.6 metres to allow two-way access for the car length, and then it narrows down to 4.1 metres. The main issue that we have is the access to the east, which is 2.4 by 20.1 metres, and that can only be achieved if you're projected half metre into the carriageway. That still falls short of the 2.4 by 43 metre requirement for a 30-mile-an-hour road. The applicant has not submitted any speed surveys to suggest that the visibility display is in line with the speeds of 19 miles per hour. As a result, Highways would not consider it acceptable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members?
Well, I'll start since that was my ward, thank you, and seeing as I was opposed to this application last time. I've still got great concerns, and I appreciate where Mr Pickering's coming from and everything else, but there are plenty of other facilities for over 60s in Murfield, and I don't think, and I still don't think, this is the right place for it. We've got mega issues on that road with Highways. As someone said earlier, one of the residents, we actually put parking restrictions along that road, and it permit parking because of the amount of traffic that goes on there, because of the school and everything else. And I'm really concerned about this access and egress, and the sight lines to the right is still below standard. Busy road, loads of children go on there, not just walking, in push chairs, on bikes and everything else. And I really cannot put my vote to pass this, because I would have it on my conscience if there was a mega accident on that road. So I still propose, Chair, that we go ahead and accept officer's recommendations and refuse it.
Are you moving that? Yeah.
I'm moving that, Chair, please.
Councillor Pinner?
Oh, couldn't I just say that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I tend to agree with a lot of what Councillor Taylor says. I hear quite loudly the point that Councillor Kendrick made at the last meeting about the need for accommodation for older people, or shall we say lifetime accommodation. However, it is no business of the planning committee giving permission to such idealistic accommodation, such accommodation which is needed, not necessarily there, but where other issues make the development problematic. And I think that the access problem does make this problematic. I have no hesitation in saying, because we've had quite a lot of issues raised by local residents, parking on the main road, on Kirklees Road. That will do no good for sightlines if there are parked cars restricting the sightline to the right, which is already substandard, as has been indicated. There seems to be inadequate allocation of visitor parking for the site, and point has also been made about refuse collections. Do people in the development have to bring their bins up to the road, or will the bin wagon go down there? And yes, all right, I will just leave that one hanging. I just think that we're presented with something which idealistically is a good thing, but I don't think is in the right place because of the issues that we've had, and I will second Councillor Taylor's proposition, and in doing so make the assumption that we, in doing that, we would be refusing it for all three reasons given in paper.
Councillor Granger-Mead, did you indicate?
I was just going to say that I would second Councillor Taylor's.
It's already been
It's
done.
lovely to be so popular this afternoon, thank you.
Councillor Firth.
I'm just a little puzzled, Chair. As has been said, if this was approved earlier for a 5-bedroom home, and there's been improvements in the sightlines because of you asked them to go away and come back and do some work, and that has been improved. I can't understand highways. Highways must have been involved in the first application, and there has been an improvement. So, why? You understand, Chair?
Comment, Brian?
Through you, Chair. I wasn't actually involved in the first application. However, the approval for a 5-bedroom property, the parking standards were required for 3 vehicles only. Now this is considered a double intensification in that respect. So the intensification of this proposal is double what that looks like approved.
But the sightlines have improved.
Through you, Chair. The sightlines have improved, but they still fall short of the standards required. This is a separate application that we're considering.
Yeah. We've got to take into consideration this application. Councillor Hall.
Still like-minded as I was last time about this. I understand that there is a shortage of dwellings like this, but one thing you can't compare this with Meadow Green in Edmund White. They're two completely different animals, completely different. I don't see how entrance exits changed all that much, and to try and get some kind of an answer to it, I did a swept path analysis checks, which, believe you me, there are more exciting things in life than reading these, but nonetheless I did it, and all I can say is some pieces what I did see regarding this application were done on a medium-sized family car. Well, no, if you got my car in one of those parking bays, you wouldn't better get it out, that's it. It'd to stop there for the rest of it's natural. So I'm of this, it hasn't changed my views much at all, and I agree with what Kath lives in Mayfield, she knows what she's on about, she lives locally. I'm going to go with Office's recommendation and what's been put forward today, and I would go for refusal as well.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't at the meeting where this was debated last time. I take on board that a lot of the other things were considered acceptable, maybe the highways that you really wanted to hear that case. floor will make up part of that filling that need. That said, when highways say to us that something is not acceptable, I still can listen, because when highways make an error, it's usually a right side error, it's usually conservative with a small c, no offence. So when they say that the development is not acceptable on terms of highways alone, I'm prepared to accept that as a road officer's recommendation, just because it's based on hard evidence, not on perception.
Anybody else? No? There's not a lot for me to wind up on, to be quite honest with you. I think what touched upon, and Councillor Firth did raise a point there about previous applications, but we only take them into consideration when objectors or applicants are looking at them, because these have got to be looked at in isolation and to go against, and we don't have to stick to what the highways officers are saying. We've got to make our own views, but they're here as professionals, and on something like visibility and something about access, we've got to sit up and listen. You know, all the things, there's a little bit of judgment that can be given, and it can be subjective. So I don't think there's a lot we can do at this particular moment in time. We've got to move in a second to accept officers' recommendations, and that's also to accept all the recommendations that was previous. And David, I hope you understand that that comes in as the officer's recommendation. So I'm going to go to the vote on this one. All those in favour as officers' recommendations to refuse this application, please show their hands.
6.
7.
And yourself, 7.
All those against? That application is refused. Thank you. On to agenda item 16, that's planning application for the erection of a single-storey rear extension and ramp 15 Talbot Street. Yes. Go quietly though. No cheering. Right, could I have Priscilla Luna, please? Are you okay with that? Thank you. Samir Tomlinson, please.
There isn't any more because unless the first three that you take off, there's more.
Fears big? No? No. Right. Members then? Who's going to kick this one off? Councillor Green.
I can't see any difference in the proposed extension of this property compared to the extensions either side that currently exist. So there, in my opinion, there's no grounds for refusal of this extension.
Okay. Are you moving it?
I can.
Yep.
I will
second.
To accept officer's recommendation.
Is there any other comments? Be moved in second, and then all those. Can I move to the vote? All those in favour? It's unanimous then. Thank you. That application's approved. Agenda item 17. This is the erection of a single-storey rear extension at 17 Talbot Street.
This is the same photo as on the previous, and we have changed Talbot Street. It's got 4 members of the first council outlined in the officer report. Again, you'll see those outlined with this property is pretty much a mirror of the adjoining 15, with the front door opening onto the pavement and the shared passageway leading to the door at the rear. This application is a little different from the previous one in that it is not a single-storey extension, it is a canopy. The single-storey extension is existing on site, and this is looking at a small area immediately to the rear of the passageway, which will be supported on stone pillars and will continue the flat roof form over the existing extension. The property has no amenity space to the rear. Having built an extension, there is a small passageway at the rear of the extension before you get to the flat building.
Can I just stop you? You didn't say why this had come to committee.
I said
Did
the
you?
request of council access.
Sorry.
There isn't any amenity space left to the rear of this property, and a little bit left by the passageway is considered to equate to a quality private amenity space. Again, the property is sited in the conservation area, and consideration has been given to the effect in terms of the historic environment. And again, given the very built-up nature of the property on Talbot Street, you can see most properties have extended use in way, shape or form. As such, the extension of canopy is considered to be acceptable in terms of visual amenity. The position of the canopy relative to the neighbouring property, together with the form of development, will cause no substantial harm in terms of residential amenity. A number of objections have been received, and these have been considered and addressed within the officer report. The reasons outlined in the officer report approval has been recommended.
Thank you. No other comments now? Fazila, do you want to speak on this? In these circumstances, you've got 3 minutes, yeah?
Sorry, I'm speaking as a normal member of the public. Because the next door property is my mother's property, as you've probably seen by the application before, and I know it has no relevance to this particular application itself, and it does fall within its boundaries. However, the canopy will be on what has been private land public access. There is a civil matter that's going through, and I would recommend that the committee takes that into consideration, that the civil matter first is resolved before planning application be given out. We have no objections, and obviously in the actual canopy being put there. However, the ramp that's required for number 15 will have implications, as you can see on 10.16 of the application papers. Where the stone pillars will be, it will have a direct effect on the manoeuvrability of the ramp. The wheelchairs are going on the ramp. So I would ask that the committee have a look at that and please consider that. And also you can see in terms of material consideration that, and the photos that you've seen today, that it is a very overdeveloped place, and the once the chemistry is on, it will be obviously furthermore. Thank you.
Thank you. So Sumaya and Fayaz is not in. No, not. Fatima Karolia, please.
Good afternoon. So I'm speaking on behalf of my grandparents that live on number 17. So the canopy, the main reason for this is just so it's a weather shield for them. I understand that for Zila, Councillor Luna has got issues with the pillar. We have compromised and said we would move this pillar if this does get in the way. However, I do not believe it does get in the way. I mean, a wheelchair can get around it, but if you believe so, we can compromise with that. Another reason is due to the water that comes in from the passageway. It is bringing in some damp into the basement from my grandparents' house. So we believe this is probably going to be the cheapest option to stop some of that damp. And other than that, it is just mainly a weather shield for my grandparents to get through, and they do use the passageway quite a bit, and they do go around the side. I mean, I agree with what Jennifer Booth had to say as well. I don't believe it gets in anybody's way. I appreciate the property is overdeveloped or developed quite a bit, but I don't see this getting in anybody else's way, and nor do I see it going in the next door neighbour's way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ibrahim Luna, please. He's not here now. Shoaib Nana.
I'm the agent on the application.
Come a bit closer to me.
I'm the agent on this application. I've put it on behalf of the applicant. It's just a straightforward veranda at the rear of the property. It's to not cause any harm to both neighbours. The main purpose was to just keep access through to both properties. We've tried to follow all the processes possible, keep it simple design, keep it in keeping with the conservation area, and hence we designed a design which is very minimalistic in its form, and consider the materials to be the same as what's already there. And hence, there is one issue with the ramp which I have understood, but the pillar can always be moved back to avoid this issue. So, and the roof overhang at the back, so this could easily be resolved. So I hope we can all support this application and approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Members? Councillor Firth?
I can see absolutely no problem with this, Chair, and I'll move recommendation. Though, can I add that the neighbours are clearly talking. The applicant has said he'll move the pillar if it's of concern to the neighbours, and with that in mind, if that addition can go on to the recommendation, more than happy to support.
Anybody else? Councillor Lawson?
I was just going to second the chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hall?
The only matter I've got is the positioning of the pillar. I can see why a ramp's going in next door. If that were to give access to, we'll say, an electric wheelchair, something like that, and if there's a pillar it way, what's the bloody point in putting a ramp in? Knocks it out to me. There's not a right lot of point. If this canopy can be built, but still allowing room for such as a wheelchair to manoeuvre up and down the ramp, I'd be okay with it. I'm a bit dubious about this at the moment, but it's got to be said.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Mann? I don't know whether the agent or the architect. Are you both? Both. Why isn't a cantilever bracket thought of?
It's just that I don't want to put additional pressure on that as the foundation of the extension. They're not sure if they're adequate to take further load, and so it'd be additional cost.
Well, it'd be a lightweight roof, wouldn't it?
It'd be a lightweight roof.
And I don't think that you'd be adding a lot to it. Would you consider putting a cantilever bracket on that one and leave the pillar on the other side?
If
that's fine. That's all I wanted to hear from you. That's fine, Mr. Knight. Sorry, go on.
You took the words out of my mouth, Chair. I was going to suggest a cantilever.
Yeah.
But presumably the thing above has not bearing any load.
No.
So I would have thought cantilever would work subject to what
Well, if you leave one pillar in, that can carry a lot of weight anyway. Okay. I think we've got to move it in a second. I think the council first right if we put it in the condition that they put a bracket in there.
Through your chair, but what we can do is, in terms of delegate the approval of the application to officers to secure that amendment, which will show on the drawings the rather than design plan to leave it down. So we'd agree that and then issue a decision on the basis of that. If there's any problem with securing that, then we could report it back to members at that stage. Does that sound reasonable?
Are you okay with that, Mrs. Cora? I know it's your grandma's property. Are you okay with that, though? Is that okay? Yeah. Is that okay? Thank you for that, because obviously we need to get this right, and we need to talk to each other to try and sort this out. So I'm quite happy to go to the vote on this with the and delegate it to officers to secure that. Then that might be changed. Yep. All those in favour? Anybody against? That's unanimous then, thank you. Agenda item 18, this is the planning application erection of a Class A1 AP coffee shop with external seating at Northgate Retail Park.
Traffic generation associated with development would be 16, 17 two-way movements in the peak hour between the hours of 12 and 1300 on a Saturday. This equates to one vehicle movement every 4 minutes. There are to be 2 parking spaces lost of the existing arrangement. One will be for the refuse storage and collection area, the other will be associated with the outside seating. The parking survey that's being carried out in the same time period has indicated that there's currently 48 spaces spare with the current arrangement. This proposal would require 28 spaces, leaving a surplus of 20. The servicing arrangement will be to remain as existing, with the majority of the stores collected by a separate service yard. However, the McDonald's is accessed via the existing entrance and so would this facility. Whilst it's acknowledged that the entrance onto Albion Street is busy, it currently works quite well, with reported only 2 accidents in terms of personal injury occurred within the last 5 years. One of those was a hit and run whilst using a mobile phone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Just so that then, Chair, the nature and scale of development will not result in a significant detriment to visual residential communities. An officer of the opinion that the proposal will not be significant in due with highway safety implications and recommendations for approval set out in the update as amended council policy.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmed, please.
Good afternoon. Myself and local residents object to the proposed coffee shop at this particular location. We emailed a petition to Councillor Hall and Case Officer Katie Wilson. I'm sure I wasn't aware that the case council got changed. I understand costs to come into Heckman White would be great for the town, as it would bring jobs, and it'd be a good investment. However, there are plenty of empty shops in the town centre that can cater for this. Therefore, we would like the council to consider an objection for this application. TRIG's database survey was done in April 2014, but we are in 2018 now. And the IMA transport report states that there's been no major changes in the retail park that suggest trading conditions have altered since the survey. I've lived on Jeremy Lane since 2002, and traffic has increased ridiculously. Sometimes residents are parking in the town centre to try and get to their homes on Jeremy Lane and Albion Street. This is caused by the retail park. Unfortunately, when I purchased the house in 2002, I wasn't made aware of this outline planning for a retail park opposite the house. The cause, basically, like I said, is a retail entrance and the exit onto Albion Street, and the street, the actual roads are streets, they're not roads. They can't cater for this type of traffic. Report of the head strategic investment states that proposed building is 17 metres away from the nearest home. I actually think that is wrong. I got my tape measure out yesterday, and it's 14 metres from my house, from my boundary, to where the sign is at the moment for the actual brick sign is. It's 14 metres. From Albion Street, the distance is 12 metres. So this is too close to residential houses and literally invades our privacy. You could probably see just directly opposite is where my house is, and Albion Street is on this side. So bearing in mind where the corner meets, this is my next point. The plans show that there is a curved corner with floor-to-ceiling glass. Yeah? That is literally that is literally on the corner on my property. Basically, it will be invading our privacy, and our children play outside. So that is cause for concern for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to address that? In this case, about
Really, so just in response to the publicity, we have received 5 letters of representation and 1 petition with 43 signatures, and they were received as part of the amended plans publicity, which expired on 23rd of January. The issues that were raised were highway safety, noise disturbance, littering, and open privacy, as well as the existence of other buildings in Heckman White. In terms of the impact on neighbouring properties, the plans have been measured and set out in the report. A distance of 17 metres. I'll just go back to that. Mine's probably this. To properties opposite here.
and Jeremy Lane at 23 metres to properties on Greenside. There is an area of glazing proposed on the building, which is this corner section here, which would look onto the road junction, but from that to the nearest property it's 23 metres. Yeah. And it's single storey.
We can only say it's being measured, that's all we can say. Right, members, anybody want to say anything on this?
I happen to use this retail park quite considerably, and one of you on the bus pointed out about the parking spaces, that there was 49, I would strongly dispute that, because I can never actually find a parking space whenever I'm there. And I notice in the supplement that we've just been given that Councillor Hall points out that the data is 3.5 years out of date. Is that correct?
Through your chair. The survey is based on what's called the TRIX survey database. There's a list of sites on that database that is available to us. This was the site that was comparable to this. The information survey was carried out 3 years ago. A survey term is considered comparable in that respect. Thank you, Chair.
So it hasn't actually been carried out on this site recently.
Through you, Chair. The only survey that's been carried out on this site is the parking survey, as figures quoted previously by myself. Thank you.
The other issue I have is I've got to agree with the representation from the member of the public that that window, which is actually curved, will actually overlook the property. The other buildings in that retail park are actually all set away from all the surrounding properties. That seems to be in the middle, in my opinion, of the residential area, and if I was in one of those surrounding properties, I would have a huge problem with overlooking that. When all the other buildings are set back, that appears to be in the forefront and quite an eyesore if I was living in a property nearby. I also have come across a lot of issues with the drive-in McDonald's, with cars queuing back onto Jeremy Lane, and I believe some of these photos that Steve Hall has shared have actually backed that information up, which is something I experience on a regular basis. I would not be happy to accept Officer's recommendation on this occasion for this building.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Hall.
I better say something. I'll talk to the photographs that have been passed out. If you go into roughly about page 6, bottom photograph, you can see tail lights, a long line of tail lights. This is due to the queue for the drive-through. Now, part way up where all these tail lights are, if you look across onto your next page, the bottom picture, you can actually see a marked out yellow box. Now, we know that people aren't supposed to park in there, but we also know that people do. If that were left clear, there is another way out for traffic, out at existing entrance exit, but you've got a clear sight view of it. If you go around where this black 4x4 is parked, what happens is you get the queue starting at the entrance exit, so you get somewhere roughly where that black 4x4 is and you're stuck. You can't move. There's various other photographs detailing the same thing. Traffic backing up to entrance exit. Now, one of the things is there isn't a problem with car parking spaces. I've never seen problems with people riding around looking for spaces. There are always spaces. A lot of what the problem is the drive-through, which causes the blockages, causes a blockage onto Albion Street, That then causes problems then onto Jeremy Lane, either traffic going up Jeremy Lane or coming down Jeremy Lane. I mean, to get somebody like Costa Coffee coming to Edmundwike, it's a big tick as far as I'm concerned. But as you get towards the back of the photographs, you can see one with a red car parked at the rear of the line of traffic waiting to get in. Now, this is regular. It's not a one-off. This is regular, not just Saturday dinner times. Evening times, I've been down seeing other things that goes on down there, which not to do with this application. But it is the layout of the car park is the problem. And I'm not saying yet again, I'll repeat it, I'm not saying there's a shortage of car parking spots. There isn't. The proper layout of this car park to facilitate an extra residential amenity like Costa Coffee is wrong. And on that basis, I could not accept approval of this unless some drastic changes, which is the layout of the car park needs turning around.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think the thing that is most concerning is not so much the car park, but what happens outside the car park.
What control?
Well, I think we have to be careful here. Clearly, there seems to be a problem with the drive-through. Seems. I mean, that's not Costa's fault.
No.
However, if we, I suppose we've got to consider whether there is an existing problem which having another outlet there will actually make worse. I suppose that's got to be our opinion or not. And although
that's the material consideration, whether this would make it worse.
Oh yes, it is a material consideration. Even though we could be in danger of having our heads turned by having an application from Costa, I think we have, as Councillor Hall said, we have to be quite cold-hearted about this. But if we think this will cause more problems than it's worth, then we've got to refuse it. I don't know whether anybody's made that proposition yet, but that would certainly be the way I'm going on this.
Councillor Firth.
Chair, I do welcome Costa coming to Heckman-Wike. And Councillor Hall suggests that there is plenty of car parking, but it's the overflow for the drive-in to the business next door. I just wonder whether highways could find a solution to this rather than just throw it out. And if a solution can be found, I'd rather defer it.
I think there's an issue here. I have to say this, Councillor. I think that there's an issue that we should really defer this. There's a couple of measurement issues that I'd like to address as well, because there's certainly this issue about the proximity of the window, and whether that window could be a glazing that no one can, people can see out, but not people can see in, or vice versa, whatever. I think there's ways of doing that, so there's an issue there. We also need to understand that the problem with the drive-through is not of the making of Costa. That's a separate issue. But we was reminded on the bus this morning that the Costa had requested a drive-through and we had refused that altogether. So, we've attempted to address some of the issues that both yourself, Councillor, has raised, and in actual fact from the information that you put to the committee. So I think we do need to address these points. I think instead of going for a refusal on this, because I think it would be good in certain areas to be able to do it properly, for them to go back and look at it again and understand the issues that was raised at this committee. I think we should ask for this to be deferred you know, just really to, we need to say really what we're going to look at about traffic movements and about the measurements that's being quoted, and I think we need to sort of check them. So I move a deferral on this. I don't know whether anybody wants to support it.
Second it.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Right, so this is being deferred for them particular issues.
And see if we can find a solution.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a solution that works.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay? All those in favour of deferring this? That's unanimous. That's deferred then. Thank you. This is agenda item 19. This is installation of the sugar silo associated with concrete base and tangerine confectionery.
Chair, Chair.
Michelle, was you against it being?
Yes, but it doesn't make any difference.
Well, no, it wasn't unanimous then.
Traffic backs up here.
It's okay.
Yeah, it should have.
Yeah.
By the way,
This application for the sugar silo for tangerine confectionery in Kirklees was brought before members at the request of Councillor Lawson for the reasons outlined in the officer report. As members will have seen on site this morning, the site is part of a working confectionery factory. The applicant is seeking permission for the erection of a 13.5 metre sugar silo to be positioned on the western side of the factory. Permission has been granted previously under the 2013 application for a sugar silo, around about 7 metres further to the north than the current proposal. The existing sugar storage is limited and is currently delivered to on the South Parade side. At present, frequent deliveries are made to the premises because of the limited capacity to store sugar. The proposed silo location proposed would allow more sugar to be stored on the site, and it would allow them to use this access at the side of the Punch Bowl Tavern instead of parking the tankers on South Parade. And given the size of the silo, it would obviously show a lot more sugar than they can currently store and result in less deliveries. In terms of the character and visual amenity of the area, Tangerine Confectionery is a long-standing business premises with a sizeable factory. The appearance of the silo would be in keeping with the industrial character of the site and therefore is considered by officers to be acceptable in terms of visual amenity. There are neighbouring properties with the potential to be affected by the size and siting of the silo. The closest to these is the neighbouring 10 Walt Royd Road. Stated in the report, it is appreciated that there will be some impact upon the amenities of the occupiers of this property given the direct alignment between the silo and number 10 Walt Royd Road. However, there is substantial planting on the site which would screen the silo to a degree, and there is a separation provided by approximately 13 metres between the silo and the neighbouring property. So it's appreciated that the new position would have more of an impact on the amenities, but for the reasons outlined in the officer report, the harm caused is not considered it to be so significant to merit a recommendation of refusal. The proposal has also been considered by the environmental health team, and a condition has been suggested relating to noise. A number of objections have been received, and these have been considered and addressed within the officer report. However, for the reasons outlined in the officer report, approval has been recommended subject to the suggested conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other issues. Mr. Hodgson, please.
Thank you. My family's home is at 10 Walt Royd Road, Cleckheaton, and lies immediately to the west of Lyons Confectionery, who currently have the application with you for the erection of the sugar silo. The proposed construction will be located approximately 8 metres from my eastern boundary, and our house is located within 2 metres from that boundary, and the silo is going to be 13.5 metres tall, 44 foot high, with a diameter of 3.5 metres, 11 foot 6. and its base is on a level with our property. We have been in the process of selling our house and have already had 2 committed buyers back out because of this silo proposal. We consider with great justification that the proposed silo has blighted our property before it has even been built and must object to the proposal in the strongest possible terms. It is certainly contrary to your own planning guidance and policies in that it directly affects and compromises our domestic amenities and would shadow our house completely from the east. It's not just the current property owners' amenities that will be affected, but the future owners of the property too. They had the 2013 application passed, but now they seem it does not fit. They want to move it closer to my property. And obviously there will be further removal of the trees. So during the spring and summer months, there will be no visual and the barriers will be removed. And also, finally, with my sons, if I'm playing in the garden with them, I'm just going to be looking directly at a 44-foot tall sugar silo. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to address anything on that? No. Members? Councillor Lawson.
There has been an application before that was granted that has lapsed. I think it had been extended in the past and received an extension. Now, the issues with traffic were the same now as they were with that application. Nothing has changed. So those kind of traffic remedial considerate that would happen anyway with the old applications. So what's new, what's changed with this application is that it's come more in line and more visible to Mr. Hodgson's property. Now, you might say there's a small movement of this huge thing, but because it's so big, it's 7 meters high, a small movement can have a big impact. I think Mr. Hodgson is right to point out that during the spring and the summer there may be some screening, but that leaves lots of them to whether it's not. I do think that it would constitute a detrimental change to the amenity of the property, not just Mr. Hodgson, he's moving less irrelevant, but to future residents of our property. So, in this case, of this, in the full knowledge and expectation that the old application would have very little to sort of complain about if that came back.
Councillor Pinnock.
There are a number of ironies in this application, it seems to me. I agree with all that Councillor Wilson said, but it has to be pointed out that the access to be used by vehicles unloading sugar is actually far more awkward than the one at the front of the building. Every time a lorry needs to make a delivery on that access at the back, it stops the traffic on Westgate, which is an A road, because they've got to manoeuvre to get in reverse. Whereas on the front of the building, where I have on occasion seen sugar lorries unloading, and there's one there, that's not a problem because there's a lay-by in effect, so one might say that the unloading of sugar at the back of the building is actually exacerbating a road traffic issue that's already there. It's, well, perhaps not exacerbating, sorry, that's a bit of an exaggeration, because they're suggesting there will be fewer movements, but my point is that there is already a facility at the front of the building where sugar can be unloaded without causing a traffic problem. I suppose suppose that the other thing that one has to mention is that the current local plan being examined by the inspector shows this as a housing site. And I think I will leave my comments at that for the moment.
Okay. Councillor Benjamin.
Through you, Chair, if I can ask the planning officer, this may not be relevant, but the previous application where the silo was cited further back, were there objections?
Through you, Chair, yes, there were objections.
Right.
From the same residents, number 10 and number 20 Waterroad Road.
Okay. Could I just ask another question through you, Chair? If that application was resubmitted in the original format, obviously that would be approved again, I'm assuming.
Through you, Chair, the recommendation would be the same.
Yep. Anybody else?
Yeah. I will second Councillor Lawson's proposition.
You need to expand on it a little bit.
Well, we're talking about residential amenity here. I'm not sure how...
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Residential amenity and impact.
An impact, yes, yes. I'm not sure how I can deal with the issues that I raised in terms of access for deliveries. But I certainly do regard that as an important issue where they do have a site, a position for unloading that doesn't cause traffic problems.
But that's been covered by this report.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if you're sticking to anything, I would say residential.
No. I do have a couple of issues with the conditions that are proposed here, which I think I will raise if and when we take the vote on the current proposition.
Does anybody else want to say anything?
I'm not sure, Chair, if this is relevant, but if, I don't know if the planning officer can answer this question, if the application was refused, how does that affect Lions going forward? Is the silo based on expansion or current production?
Through you, Chair, we don't have that information.
No, and it's not material anyway. Okay.
Just ask about noise from this silo. If it were operational, would there be a noise or not? And if there were a noise, would it be conditioned as to what times it could be used and not used? I'll beat you to it, sorry.
Through you, Chair. The environmental team were consulted as part of the application and did raise some moderate concern in terms of noise and have suggested the use of condition to minimise that impact.
And the other thing is, if I were to live in a house up there and I were going to have a silo like that built, I would certainly think it is more than imposing on a property that's situated literally just a few yards away. Wouldn't like it at all.
Have we got the drawing with the location of the extent?
Yeah. Through you, Chair, this is the proposed and the relationship with number 10.
Yeah.
And this is the previously approved scheme and the relationship with number 10 there.
I don't think there's a lot of difference between them two.
I know somewhat if I were a wagon driver, I'd much rather park up round front than snake upside the building. That's for definite.
And it's a 7 foot difference in the report. Well, I read it properly.
Yeah. Sorry, Eric, you didn't come on site, but it's all...
Oh no, I'm just reading.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's all covered. Well, we have a mover and a seconder to go against officers' recommendations. Yeah. Yeah.
So, if through you, Chair, in terms of the suggested reason for refusal, going through sort of the debate that you've been having, as it relates to the residential amenity and the applicants at number 10, terms of the new position of the silo, in conjunction with its height, it would result in sort of an opposing structure, which would be detriment to the residential use of those options. So, in terms of...
I hope that's sustainable.
Well, that's the thing. But this is just for you to look at. That's what you're looking at voting on. In terms of relevant policies, I suppose over to you in terms of unitary development plan policies.
Well, no, I'd rather not put...
They're not relevant.
I don't think that's relevant to this at this point, given that the inspector is still examining the...
We're recommending we do, so we need to know which policy makes
It would be detailed. Can we take the vote first? Can we? We've got over in a second to go against officers recommendations. That's to refuse this application. All those in favour?
6.
All those against?
6-2.
The application has been refused and it is detailed. Is that okay? Application's refused then. And I have to say there's nothing wrong with them coming back. It may be 7 foot away from it, but it's, they can come back with the other one.
They may well appeal.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 20, this is demolition of existing garage and detached dwelling, 93 Stock Bank Road.
My name is Nia Thomas and I am case officer for this application. The application has been brought to Heavy Woollen Subcommittee at the request of Councillor Bolt. Members visited the site this morning. The application relates to the erection of one dwelling on land adjacent to number 93 Stocksbank Road in Murfield. The application also includes a new access at number 93. As you can see from the proposed elevations, the dwelling would be of a contemporary design with a half-hit roof and would incorporate large areas of glazing. The dwelling will be constructed from brick and timber cladding for the external walls. The site is unallocated and not located in a conservation area. It currently accommodates a large garage associated with number 93 and surrounding the site is predominantly residential. Levels slope downwards towards Ford Drive. As stated in the officer report, given the different types of dwellings in the area, it is considered that the proposed dwelling would harmonise with its surroundings and would not detract from wider visual amenity. With regards to residential amenity, the impact of the proposed development is considered to be acceptable. Although it is recognised that the distances set out in UDP policy B12 are not strictly adhered to, there are mitigating factors to make this impact acceptable. These reasons are set out in the officer's report. Several objections have been received, which are also covered within the report. In terms of highways, there's internal turning space within the site, and there's adequate parking for both number 93 Stocksbank Road and the proposed new dwelling. The proposed new access is not considered to cause highway safety issues, and there's no objection in that regard. So to conclude, it's considered that the proposed dwelling is acceptable for those reasons. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you want to make any comments there? Okay. Robin Lawrence, please.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my wife from 93A adjacent to the proposed property and the Sweetings of number 1 Ford Drive, and I'm aware of at least 3 other neighbours who have objected. The previous owners of our house, 93A, had a planning application for a garage and a single floor extension refused as it was an overbearing large size and overlooking the property below. Only the garage was accepted and built. The size of the proposed property, its distance and impact on the surrounding existing houses is the main issue. The proposed development has a footprint which is at least 30% larger than any of the surrounding properties. What is referred to in the officer's report as a spacious character of Stocksbank Road, that's 10.7, will be changed by a property literally filling the full width of the plot, apart from a small path to the side. On all 4 sides, the recommended distances between existing buildings and the new development have either been ignored or disregarded. The recommended 21 metres between the rear elevation and number 1 Ford Drive is reduced to 13 metres. The recommended 12.5 metres between the side elevation and 93A Stocksbank is reduced to less than 6. The front elevation is still some 3 or 4 metres short of recommendations, with the existing property of 93 used as a guideline, as in 10.29 in the officer's report. There's a reference to the back of 93 being closer to number 1 Ford Drive than the new development. The back of 93 is referenced is a single-storey conservatory and not a large 2-storey house, and the distances are very, very similar. In view of that, if the property is approved, please can a restriction be granted to allow no further extension or conservatory to be added to the rear of the property due to the close proximity of number 1 Ford Drive. The building itself will be vastly different in character to existing properties, with the front and rear elevations being primarily glass and timber cladding, and will set a precedent for other similar developments. There's currently another development next door but one to 93A awaiting approval for 3 houses on an existing property, on an existing site with 1 house, which has been in progress for a longer period. Our family of 93A and the Sweeting family number 1 Ford Drive have lived in our current properties for many years and will continue to do so. We value the space around our properties, and this was one of the reasons for remaining there. We do not view our properties and land as investment opportunities, but as homes. No contact with the applicant to discuss the proposal has been made by them. They have not made any attempt to discuss this with us, and they've been there for less than a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Sweeting?
He can't make
it. David Starley, please.
Thank you, Chair, members. My name is David Storey. I'm a Chartered Town Planner speaking on behalf of the applicant. Obviously, I'm speaking in support of your officer's report and recommendation. You'll see that there are no highway objections to the application. In terms of the design, Stocksbank Road itself, its character is very mixed in terms of house types, materials, design and profile. This adds, I would suggest, further character and interest to that area. It certainly wouldn't be a reason for refusal if you were concerned about a contemporary design. In terms of the space-back buildings, as you know, Policy B12 relates to space-back buildings within existing new developments, and it's the space between those new properties. But it's a good guideline in terms of assessing impact on neighbouring properties. Your officer's report is quite right in the way it's assessed this in terms of the juxtaposition with neighbouring properties, number 1 below being at a different angle, and also the relation between non-habitable room windows as well. And 93A is separated by the access road into the other development as well. I take the point that this previous speaker said regarding a suggestion of implementing development rights to the rear, looking at the plot configuration, if that can just be put up on screen, then that's a reasonable and appropriate condition to attach for you to consider any impact of any proposed extensions to the rear. But in terms of the way the plot sits and its relationship with neighbouring dwellings, as your officers concur, it's acceptable in that respect, and we would hope you support your officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members? What's the first?
I'm just concerned about the distances again, the measurements that the first speaker said. Could our officers shed some light on that, please? Because it does seem very close, if those measurements are correct.
Through you, Chair. Would you like me to go through each property?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So as set out in the residential amenity section, in terms of the impact on number 93A, so we're looking at this one here, we're saying that it will be located approximately 6 metres from the side elevation of this dwelling, which has 3 openings in its side elevation. However, we're considering that they serve non-habitable rooms, and that although BE12, UDP policy BE12 states that it should normally be 12 metres, given the non-habitable nature of these rooms and the 2 metre high screening that is proposed along that boundary.
Can I just ask what are 3 non-habitable rooms? Because if they're non-habitable, why do they have them in the first place? If you understand.
Through you,
landings, halls, or whatever.
Through you, Chair, we've got in the neighbouring dwelling, we've got a door, a kitchen window, and a landing/home office window.
Right.
So the combination of those factors, officers are concluding that that relationship is acceptable.
So it's half the distance it would normally consider.
Through the Chair, it is half the distance, but with those mitigating factors, officers are comfortable with that relationship. In terms of the relationship with number 1 Ford Drive, which is acknowledged to be on a much lower level, we've got UDP policy B12 states that there should be 21 metres between habitable room windows of the new dwelling and habitable room windows of the proposed. In this case, there's approximately 13 metres. However, given that the relationship between the dwellings is indirect, so the proposed dwelling itself isn't actually facing onto either of those, either this elevation or this elevation directly. So it's not facing onto either of those, and there's the levels differences in screening on the boundary, and the fact that we've put here the fact that number 93 is closer there's a similar relationship between the existing number 93 and the proposed dwelling.
What distance are they?
It's we've got 13 metres between there and there. So let me just have a look.
It looks very close.
I think, through you, Chair, I think just to set out, in terms of what's set out in B12, policy B12, it just set out that distances less than those suggested in the actual policy can be supported if there are circumstances on the site, such as the permanent screening, the changing in the levels of the land levels through the design. So, like I said, for each of the relationships, it is set out in the report in terms of why we felt that those, or why officers felt that those distances were appropriate. They are only suggested distances, like I said.
Well, thank you, and through you, Chair. I just think I like the design, but it's too big. It's overdevelopment.
You're not going to get can I just come in? You're not going to get them distances, whatever. Either we go for a development here or not. I think one of the issues is, I think it was raised, was about the eclectic bloody mix of all these properties in there. And once again, this is, you could only see these, and I was quite surprised that the differences in how these plots were set into different sort of configurations. And I think, as you go down that street, there's multiple 2 stories, bungalows, and all sorts of different sort of mixes of it.
I didn't go on the visit, but I do know.
And I appreciate what you're saying about the fact that about these space-bound buildings, but it can be addressed. The one issue that I've got on this is that we have an ongoing issue in Murfield about space about buildings, and it's regular. I think we all get a regular update on this, and I just want to make sure that we've got this covered, to be quite honest with you. We don't want to continue for the next 3 or maybe 4 years even now. I'm not going to say who it is, but we all get a email from him about the fact that we'd accepted the reduction in space about buildings, which caused some particular problem. I don't see there is a problem on this one because of the mix of how it is, but I'm quite happy to move this, but I don't want to start any more further debates. John?
Well, I mean, I'm just really concerned about the impact it's going to have on property on Ford Drive. I've no issue with the design or anything else. Orange Design are a lovely company, just some really innovative super houses. But I think for the size of this house and for that plot, I just think it's the wrong house in the wrong place on the wrong plot. If it was a bungalow, I might still have a few concerns, but I feel as if we're trying to get too much of a house into too small of a plot. I am concerned about B12 and everything else because it's technically too near to every house around there. So that is my concern, not with the design, well, apart from Italian, but then that's a building control issue and not a planning issue. But I do just have concerns about the impact it's going to have on the property on Ford Drive. And I think it's a little bit unfair to say, oh, well, this B12 wasn't really, it is taken into account if it's new developments. Well, that's a little bit unfair for everybody that's been there for a long time and everything else. So that's just where
I haven't said that. John?
Thank you. No, I hear what officers are saying about mitigating circumstances. It's being used for what? Okay, these mitigating circumstances are being used repeatedly. It's not a one-off situation. So that gives me a little bit of pause for thought. The other thing I just mentioned is if it were to go through, I think what I want to see is I want to see the gentleman who spoke earlier mentioned TV rights. I want to see those removed as a condition. I would have liked to see everybody else.
Councillor Pitt?
I note on page 91 that it says there is a distance of 1.7 metres between the proposed dwelling and number 93, which is quite close. Presumably big enough to get a car down there, judging by the stretch stars shown on. Although I'm not quite sure why you'd want to get a car. But it seems to me that close proximity is too close, even though there are landing windows in the existing house. I just think that relationship particularly is too close. Maybe you could move the house further away, I don't know. Or maybe the house is just too big. I'm not sure. I don't have a problem with the design, but maybe it's just trying to fill the plot too much.
Anybody else?
Nobody wants to stick there.
I've said I would quite gladly support this. I have no issues. I think it is a big property within that.
Not anyway, just voting against it.
Sorry?
I'm going to say more refusal or overdevelopment, but of course we have to go through you first.
No. Nobody seconded. Nobody seconded, so... Sorry.
Could I just ask now, could you run arrow over the outline of the proposed development?
Yeah, so look. This is the proposed outline.
It's quite tight, that's...
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Council Firth have no problems with it, honestly. You're moving?
Yeah, I'm moving. Refusal on overdevelopment.
Is anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I like the design. It's just ugly.
Yeah. And it's on visual amenity and residential.
Yeah, residential impact.
Yeah.
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
In terms of the reason for refusal, are we looking at residential amenity in terms of all of the neighbouring properties, or just the impact on the road for drivers raised by councillor?
I think you have to take into consideration both them properties.
All of them.
The objective that spoke and the other.
Ford Drive and 90.
Is that okay?
A.
Are you all right with that one?
Yes, that's right.
Right. We have a mover and second now to refuse this application on the grounds that it's been put forward. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions?
Undecided.
Which fence are you sat on there?
That one.
Okay, that application's been refused then.
I know, it's because of that outbuilding.
Right. And to the last one then, look at last one, 21. Change of use and ground floor flat to hairdressers, 95 to 99 Lane Road, Sheffield.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Leah Thomas and I'm case officer of this application. The application has been brought to Heavy Woollen Subcommittee at the request of Councillor Taylor. Members visited the site this morning. The application relates to a change of use of a ground floor flat to a hairdressing salon. The proposed hairdressers will include 2 hairdressing stations and would employ 3 people. The site is located in the Shepley Conservation Area and there are very minor external changes to its appearance. Conservation officers raise no objection. Additionally, the site is located within the Shepley Local Centre. The hairdressing salon is an appropriate use in this location. In terms of residential amenity, no objections have been raised by environmental health, and officers are satisfied that there will be no harm to residential amenity overall. Internal works have been carried out following the earlier grant of planning permission for the flat. However, it's important to mention that this unit had never been used as a flat, and that a planning application would not be required to change its use from a bakery to what is proposed now. Concern has been raised by Councillor John Taylor relating to housing safety. Following the site visit and a response from Highways Development Management, the proposal is not considered to be an intensification of the use of the site in terms of numbers of visitors in comparison to its former use. 2 staff parking spaces would be provided at the rear of the site and internal token can be efficiently accessed. Additionally, the central location of the site means that it's well served by public transport and is considered to be a sustainable location. So for those reasons, officers are recommending approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There's no speakers.
I would move to accept officer's recommendation. I can't see any problem.
Second.
Can I just say, I just can't understand why some members just don't talk to the officers. It's so blatant.
I don't know what to say.
Anyway, not sorry about it. We've got a mover and a second to accept officer's recommendations to accept this application. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for the contribution. I have to say with a few members down, either sick or cannot be here actually, so with 3 members down today. It's not a reflection, I hope, on the applications, but I'm glad we've got quality and not quantity. That's okay. Right, can I move to members of the committee then? Can I just say, sorry, before we start, that can you please turn your phones on to silent? It's very inappropriate if the phones are going when people are speaking. Can I also remind you there should be some, there should be a part of leaflet on the chairs to tell you how the committee is run and when you can speak. And I will remind you that you are members of the public have 3 minutes to actually speak, and I'll curtail that at 3 minutes. Okay, then membership of the committee. Councillor Firth.
Chair, I'm substituted for Councillor Cattercott.
Right.
I'm here for Graham Turner.
Thank you. And we are 2 members down. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Pervez did say she was coming this afternoon. She couldn't make it this morning. You've got Councillor Taylor down.
We're down, yes.
Yeah. Councillor Pinnock.
I'm here.
As printed. Yes, thank you very much. Minutes of previous meeting. Can we agree them as a true record? Is there any matters arising from them? No. Interested in lobbying then? Can we go round the table? Councillor Pinnock.
Page 109, Chair. Lobbied by Councillor Holt.
Yeah. Councillor Lawson.
Page 109, same. Page 73, advice given on the protocol.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Page 27 and page 109, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Granger-Mead.
Agenda item 22 and agenda item 15, no advice given.
Thank you.
I received an email, 109, from Councillor Bolt.
Thank you. Councillor.
Page 109 and page 63.
No. I've been lobbied on agenda item 19, agenda item 22, agenda item 16, and I think that's it. That's enough. Thank you. Admission of the public.
There's no private matters today, Chair.
Thank you. Deputations and petitions. Anybody got any deputations or petitions? Public question time. I believe there's two public. There's public question time. Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, in discussions with the legal officer, I'd like to make a public declaration that I'm Martin Bolt. I'm a councillor for the Murphy Ward. I'm here today with regard to item 22, in which I represent my 89-year-old aunt and for which I have power of attorney. So for the purpose of this afternoon, if the committee can try and imagine that I'm an 89-year-old lady, please. Thank you. So it's not a pecuniary interest, it's another interest for council purposes.
Thank you.
I've not being a member of the planning committee, I'd like some clarity on planning process in general, please, which would probably help me. If I could ask how a planning application should be described, and by way of example, as an abstract. Many members will know the Akash restaurant in Cleckheaton, a world famous eatery. If that was to come up for a planning application, would it be described as that for which you had the last registered use, i.e. the Akash restaurant, or would it be described as something which it was used as before, in that case the Providence Place Methodist Chapel? So for a planning application, should something be described as the last registered and used facility, or should it be described as something historic, Chair?
Do you want to take them, because you've got two questions?
Well, there are different questions, and I may have a supplementary on that depending on the answer. Thanks, Chair.
Do you want to come back on that, Julie?
Through your chair, Julie Sedman, Development Management Team Leader. I think through your chair, we will look at coming back and provide more in-depth response than just responding to your here and now, to be quite honest.
But could I just say something, Chair? When you're looking at a planning application, it's the last lawful use. So if the restaurant was lawful use, that would be it. If the previous use was the lawful use, then it would have been the previous use.
Thank you, sir. The supplementary then that arises. Lawful use would be something for which planning permission existed and for which a person has paid business rates. That would classify as lawful use?
Not necessarily, because there's an immunity in planning legislation. So if there's been a material change of use and there's been no planning application, then after 10 years it would be immune from planning legislation. So that would be its lawful use.
If it was current within the last 3 years, it would be lawful. And
if it's a current one,
yeah, thank you. It's current. Separate question in chair. Thank you.
Martin, can I just say to you, we will get you a full response anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The second question is a different one, and that is, once an application has been submitted and validated and put out to public consultation, obviously the period of public consultation, is it permissible to amend it without notifying the public and giving them further opportunity to consult? And if so, who can make material changes to a planning application once validated?
Through you, Chair, it's set out in the Development Management Charter in terms of the publicity for planning applications. When it comes to amended plans, etc., it is in terms of the officer discretion in terms of whether it is re-advertised or not. But once again, as with the previous questions, we can provide a further in-depth response to you and include copies of the links to the statement of community involvement.
I'm grateful for that. The supplementary, again, it was asked in the first one, is who can make changes to the plans once validated and submitted duly?
Through your Chair. So in terms of who can make changes, the applicant can submit a change to the application. The officer in agreement with the applicant can also, or the applicant or their agent.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Can I ask that all responses to... Just bear with me a minute, please. Can I ask that all responses to Martin, to Councillor Bolt, be given to the members of this committee as well? And if it's felt to be relevant, that really it should go to all members for further information. It might be useful for other members. I think some of us know the responses, but it's better if everybody knows the responses. Thank you. Is there other?
I'm Councillor Fazila Luna, and I'm here for items 7 and 8 on the agenda. I have declared my interest on item 7, it's my mother's premises, but I will be speaking also on both as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You could have done that at the time of the application, but that's fine. Could I, before we go any further, I have been requested by Councillor Bolt, and I think we all got an email yesterday for a possible deferral of item 20 of agenda item 22. Given the information that was sent out, I'm sorry that I can't put this to members of the public, but it's for members of the committee. Would you rather debate that, or would you rather give a deferral at this moment in time? Defer. So that means it's deferred without debate. So in actual fact, it comes back, and this the reason I'm saying this will become pertinent because of another application that was deferred last time. So I'm saying to you, it's without debate. So you're deferring this without debate. Okay. Are you happy with that?
I'll second that.
Right, so that's what to move. We moved in second for it, agenda item 22, that's the planning application 201793-714. That's for it to be deferred to the next meeting. Okay. All those in favour? Anybody against? That's carried. That's deferred. So you can go now, Martin, if you want. Thank you. Right.
You're making
the site visits were carried out this morning at the 5-6. It didn't seem like 6, but at the 6 applications. No issues were forthcoming. Agenda item 14. This is local planning authority appeals. Do you want to be able to speak with them?
Thank you, Chair. So, item agenda 14 starts on page 11. It's set out there are 2 appeals which are being reported this time. One of them was an officer decision which was allowed, and the second one was an officer decision against the non-determination of an application, and that was dismissed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Ready to note, are there any comments? Well, we could do better, but it's, sometimes everybody knows that you're at the behest of the inspector. So, right, ready to note. Can we note then? Thank you. Right, we're on to planning applications then, and it's agenda item 15. This is erection of 6 apartments the rear of 8 Kirklees, Mayfield. The reason I said that about deferral was that it has been raised, and it was raised at Chair's briefing, that, and I think I have a certain amount of sympathy for this, that the last meeting we deferred this, and it was purely deferred for access. So I think really we should sort of seriously just look at access as an issue and whether that has been addressed for this application. But I'm quite willing to take further comments from that. Okay then.
Before we do start, obviously I'm here at the last planning committee. Can I assume that the planning committee was generally in favour of the proposal, but it was just the access that saw as a problem?
Well, it was deferred on access and access on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Louise Burcroft and I'm a planning case officer. The site comprises a garden area of number 8 Kirklees Road at Northfield, and the application seeks permission for infill residential development to introduce into the rear garden an apartment block of 6 dwellings to be restricted to occupiers aged 60 and over. The application was deferred from the 9th of November meeting to allow negotiations to take place regarding the revised scheme. The applicant has submitted a revised lot plan with a revision to the access. The access has been widened to the front of the Great Road, and the internal layout amended with a number of off-street parking spaces reduced from 9 to 7. Details of swept path analysis of access and egress from these spaces and for a supermarket style delivery vehicle has also been provided. Although highways do welcome the improvements made to the access, the sight line to the right remains below the standard recommended in manual streets. Sight lines of 2.4 metres by 20.1 metres are achievable if you take a measurement of 500 millimetres into the carriageway, but this would only be acceptable for 8 to 50 centile traffic speeds at 19 miles per hour. Taking into account the proposal that leads to an intensification of use of the access for vehicle and pedestrian traffic, highways consider that the proposal has failed to demonstrate adequate visibility and the safe and efficient use of the access. No revisions have been made in response to the proposed reasons for refusal 1 and 3, which refers to the impact on visual and residential amenity. Officers remain concerned that a 3-storey apartment block would be out of character, being substantially larger in scale and massing, and that it would have a detrimental impact on neighbouring properties by reason of height and proximity to boundaries. And for the reasons set out in the assessment and in the update, the proposal appears to be unacceptable, and the recommendation as in the update is for refusal.
Thank you. Ryan, do you want to make any comment, please? No comments? No. We have 6 speakers on this. Could I ask Leonie Barrett to come? Could you please come to it? Can I say to all the speakers that we did discuss this, we did debate this, and as I said previously, I think generally members were quite happy with everything apart from the access. I can't tell you what to say, it's entirely up to you, but I would suggest that you actually make a lot of your comments around the access and the issues. If you want to sort of widen that debate, then that's fine, but we will be considering purely access because that is what it was deferred for in the last meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, just to make sure I understand, and apologies everyone, I'm completely outside of my personal comfort zone here.
Right.
So, are you saying that if the access is addressed, this application will be granted?
It will. Well, this is up to members to actually decide that, but we generally, it was accepted that everything else apart from the access was acceptable.
Despite the planning recommendation that it shouldn't go ahead?
Yes, yeah.
That surprises me.
But can I just say, you can say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
Now, I can't stop you saying anything, but this is, try to address whatever is pertinent at this particular moment in time, but that's entirely up to yourself. The same thing applies to everybody.
Okay.
Okay, Leonie, carry on then,
Thank
please.
you. Yeah, I did have a number of comments to make, but I think the planners have already made those, so I will focus on the access. Despite the changes, you're looking at single vehicle access, and I think without a doubt that will cause queues on the road. And this road feeds 2 schools and a park. And there is a lot of traffic at varying times of the day, so you can take photographs as much as you want of that road. You will never hit it. When you're not always likely to hit it when there's a lot of children going with their skateboards in one direction, going to the bus in the morning in the other direction, or going to either the junior school, Crowley's Road, or Castle Hall, which are all within walking distance. Castle Hall's at the end of the road. So that is a hazard to the children as far as I'm concerned. We have lost a pet on that road because of parked cars and because of queued cars. So I don't think it is a risk I'd be willing to take. The other point I'd like to make is that I think that the planning proposition is flawed in its assumptions. It is assuming that over 60s don't work and won't need vehicular access, or there'll be limited vehicular access. There's also an assumption that there are a single occupancy in each of the units. I don't see what would limit it to single occupancy. I am almost at the age of 60. Going to retirement age of 68, I will be working pretty close to that age. I will need my car, and I would prefer to have my car for that period of time. We know nationally that there is a problem as far as public transport is concerned, and in this part of the country we're particularly subject to troubles in that area. And that means that even if you work in Longmoor like my husband, you can only get to work. You can get to work in an hour on public transport, but it's 2.5 hours to come back using the new Longmoor train station. So I don't agree with the assertions that it will be single occupancy. I think there will be far more vehicles there, and it's, from that perspective it exacerbates any of the access challenges we're facing already and the consequential traffic on the road.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Mr. John Barrett, please.
Apologies.
No. Okay. John Allowell, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to address the first item being over 60. The Burfield Council state that 21% of the Burfield population are over 65 and welcome the additional dwellings to allow downsizing, releasing property to the housing market. We reside in Murfield as it is a quiet town with a large number of bungalows. The small Westfield estate immediately behind Kirklees Road has 55 1- and 2-bedroom bungalows. We now live at 21, straight opposite number 8. During our time here, we have seen several flats, trucks, apartments, developments built. Most have been in refurbished old property or part of a mixed development. Some have been individual schemes on used land, i.e. developments like Dan Smith's Paul's Lock, 38 apartments in phase 1.
and S14's property group 12 flats on Calder Road, but none in back gardens. I would suggest that part of the reason for Murfield's eye level over 60s is the eye level apartments currently being built in Murfield. Regarding the shortage of 1 and 2 bedroom properties, I will point out that at the present time the 4 local estate agents have 53 properties on their books. Highways and parking problems. The details on the sightlines in question do not take into account the fact that 1, there is a telegraph pole on the right of the drive in the pathway directly on the boundary line between 8 and 10. There is no indication of where this would be moved to, and if it is stays in place, it will drastically change the sightline. There is a lamp post on the left-hand side of the existing drive, which will have to be moved, seeing as the drive is being widened. This further along the road. This again begs the question of where is it going to go. The occupier at number 8 have 3 vehicles and on occasions 4, which would require 2 parking on the road, as there are only 2 parking places for them. The residents at number 10 have several vehicles and occasionally park 1 on the road. This would result in a car park to either side of number 8's drive. If there are visitors to the proposed 6th apartment, the parking would be a nightmare and compromise the safety of all the road users. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Anthony Snowden, please.
Good afternoon. The development will be on Kirklees Road, which is already congested with traffic, particularly at peak times, and will soon be even busier by the development of the old Westfield Social Services site, where there will be a further 14 houses of 46 bedrooms each. The addition of these flats is likely to further increase the traffic to this area by up to 12 cars, plus any carers, visitors, etc., which is clearly already anticipated by the need for a 9-space car park. With the 5-bedroom house, which was previously approved, there will be far fewer cars, even with the occasional visitors. There is nothing to say that these people will not travel at peak times when the roads are particularly busy with cars and pedestrians going to the local junior and infant and high schools. These extra cars will also increase the traffic on Doctor Lane and Parker Lane, both of which are unsuitable for the already high levels of traffic due to the parking of cars on the roadside. The car park is in front of the proposed development. Therefore, if all of the spaces are in use, we struggle to see how emergency vehicles could get appropriate access in such an emergency, particularly if there are visitors parked in the additional car parking spaces. Murfield already has a substantial level of housing specifically for the over 60s, including the Christian residential home at the bottom of Doctor Lane, care home on Doctor Lane, and the expanding development by Darren Smith at St Paul's Lock. The proposed development is over 3 stories, which is out of context for such a leafy residential area. It is suggested that the revised plans are within the same footprint as those previously passed for a 5-bedroom dwelling. However, this new development will be significantly larger mass and more akin to a commercial development on a residential plot and car park. This will detract from the nature and presentation of this street and cause an eyesore. We are also concerned as to where the bins for such a development will go. With a 5-bedroom house, you will be permitted 1 grey and 1 green bin. However, a 6-bedroom flat will need 12 wheelie bins or a large commercial bin. As access to the development is only suitable for a medium-sized car, we struggle to understand how the refuse collection would work and whether it would be anticipated that all 6 flats would store their bins around the property and be expected to move their bins to the main road for collection, which would cause an obstruction on the pavement, particularly for the school children and any people with prams accessing the park opposite the development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Martin Jones, please.
Thank you. There are no other apartment buildings on this street. This will be the first 3-storey building. Its height, mass and unmistakably institutional appearance will dominate and decimate the appeal of the neighbourhood. I feel that the building is oversized for the plot and its placement in line with our back gardens facing all our properties will undeniably intrude upon our privacy. I'm also deeply concerned that the additional traffic and awkward access will make Kirklees more dangerous for drivers and pedestrians, especially for the school children walking to Castle Hall Academy and Kirklees Junior School. It will without doubt increase the likelihood of an accident. The Highway Services is in agreement with this, which is why they deemed the application unacceptable and prejudicial to highway safety. In November's planning meeting, the committee deferred the application so the developer could address the safety concerns and reduce the scale of the building. One committee member even suggested removing the third storey. However, the developer has done nothing to minimise the mass of the building. Instead, it seems that the developer has moved the site entrance slightly to the left and has removed 2 of the 9 parking spaces, and therefore I presume he intends the residents and visitors to park on the road, which already has permit parking to reduce the existing congestion. The developer's architect tried to suggest that there is little difference between the development and the utilisation of a 3-storey apartment building rather than a 2-storey family home. It's entirely different in every way. I appreciate that there may be a perceived need for 60-plus accommodation, but this shouldn't overrule the fact that the site has been judged inappropriate and refused by the planning department. It will be the biggest, tallest building and the only apartment block on our street, and be built looking onto our back gardens. The development is completely wrong for our street and will detrimentally and permanently affect its residents. Thank you.
Andrew Parker, please.